Okay, story time. I wasn't creeped out, but I was more or less convinced that I was going to die. Here's a little bit of backstory. This happened a few years ago while I was living with my older brother and younger sister. As much as I love my brother, he made some pretty poor choices with the women he dated. This woman in particular was a particular brand of crazy. He started dating this woman, Sandra, and initially was very happy with the relationship, and I was happy for him. For some reason, Sandra hated me. I was always more of a silent observer. They moved in together while he was living with my sister. She started imposing weird rules. For example, if she didn't like a particular food, it wasn't allowed in the house. Whatever, fine. It started getting weird when she started becoming really jealous of my siblings' relationships. If they were to speak without her present, she believed they were talking about her. My sister would borrow his sweatshirts or clothing when they were hanging out around the house, and as a result, she became convinced that they were carrying on an incestuous relationship. My sister couldn't handle it anymore and moved back in with my mom. Eventually, they broke up and she moved out. My lease was ending and he convinced me to move into the townhouse. I did, and my sister came back as well. At this point, they had a child together and she was tormenting him, threatening to keep him away from his son, saying that she would call the police on him. Just constant phone calls, constant harassment, threatening him if he didn't comply with what she wanted. About 6 months into living there, I hadn't spoken to her in maybe 3 or 4 months. I went out with a mutual friend of ours, and while we were out, my sister and her friend were calling me to complain that my brother was drunk and bothering them. They decided to leave for the night. Normally, her leaving wouldn't be an issue, but on this particular night, I pleaded with her to come home. I need to stress that this was completely out of character. She agreed and we picked them up on our way home. I lectured my brother and went upstairs to sleep. My sister was watching a movie and fell asleep in my room. Now, our house has kind of an open door policy. Friends were always over, and the door was rarely locked, if ever, day or night. It was never an issue until this particular night. My sister and I were asleep, and out of nowhere my bedroom lights turn on and Sandra is standing there with the knife that she had brought from home. The next thing I know, my sister has thrown herself over me and is holding onto her arms, and my brother has her from behind. I know they talk about fight or flight, but I was neither. I just froze like a damn statue, terrified of making any sudden movements. I was sleeping under the duvet, and the only thing that I could do was slowly curl up my legs up under my body and pull my blankets up. My sister is screaming at the top of her lungs, trying to reason with her. I just remember her telling my sister not to worry, that she wasn't there for her, that she came to kill me. Essentially assuring her that my life was the only one in danger, as if that somehow was going to make it better. I was strangely calm throughout telling my sister not to worry. It was insane. There was a brief moment where she managed to get free and started wildly stabbing the bed where my legs had been minutes prior. At this point, my hand reached out almost instinctively to grab the knife, and I got the blade. She took this opportunity to squeeze, and I mean squeeze my hand over the blade with a ninja grip I couldn't let go. Eventually, I managed to get free, and all I remember is my sister screaming at me to run over and over. I guess they had controlled her in the moment. I ran through the house, bleeding everywhere and making it to my brother's room, where the gravity of the situation hits me like a ton of bricks and I start screaming at the top of my lungs. I compose myself enough to call 911, where I start screaming at the dispatcher that I'm going to be murdered over and over. The next thing I know, there's a banging at the bedroom door. My sister later told me that she had taken the knife and threw it behind the bed. Sandra went downstairs and found another one and hid it in her pants under her shirt. She comes back and her voice has changed, and I hear her say, "Hey," my name. "Come out, I just want to talk to you." Telling my sister that she's not going to hurt me, my sister at this point sees the hidden knife. Sandra then starts screaming that she knows where I work, that she knows where I went to school, and that if I don't come out, she's going to find me one of these days and finish what she started. Then loud banging at the door ensues. I take this as my cue to create a bit more space and run to the bathroom in the bedroom and lock the door. My sister's friend, who was in the room the whole time, comes into the bathroom with me. I have no recollection of this, but apparently I tried to stick my hand in the toilet to clean off the blood completely out of my mind. I was still on the phone with the 911 dispatcher when I hear police. The police took her and knocked on the door, and I let them in and fell into a heap on the floor, absolutely hysterical. Throughout this whole ordeal, the one thing that has stuck with me is the fact that I was sleeping. There's something about being woken up like that scars you, especially when it's an unprovoked attack. To this day, I have a near impossible time sleeping alone in a house, and I always have a knife beside my bed. It's not much out of the fear that she'll return, but I came to a realization that anything is possible. If you look at someone the wrong way or upset them without realizing, what's to say they won't find out where you live and try to stab you to death in your sleep? I'm absolutely certain that my sister saved my life that night, and I'm glad I told her to come home. If I had been asleep alone, I might not be here to tell this story. I've definitely learned to lock the doors, and that people are capable of some crazy things. Hey guys! Sorry that these are the only videos I've been recording lately. I've just been so busy between work and working out and trying to keep my life balanced and everything else. But I am really interested with these type of videos and I've been watching them like crazy and I just love recording them. And if you guys like these, make sure you give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I am hoping to have a regular type of video up maybe within the next week or two. I'm not sure yet, just trying to balance everything. It takes me a while to get videos up now, but I'm doing my best, and if you guys did want to see something specific, just go ahead and leave it in the comments down below. But that's basically all I wanted to say. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll talk to you in my next video. Bye!